Coming out a few years after the original Hang-On in 1987 was Super Hang-On. This update offers tweaked handling, improved graphics and far superior sound. In the original arcade game, you sat on a cabinet shaped like a motorcycle, and you tilted that from side to side in order to steer your motorcycle around the track in-game. A feature which Sega used once more when they brought out Manx TT in the 90s. Super Hang-On is certainly a tough game, and definitely one of the classics. Maybe not up there with Outrun, but certainly a classic from Sega's history. Super Hang-On came out on the Sega Mega Drive pretty early in the machine's life. In fact, for such an early game it doesn't look that bad, it does look quite competent. Sound-wise, it's not as good as the arcade machine, but it's still pretty reasonable, especially for an early Mega Drive game. Unlike every other version of Super Hang-On out there, the Sega Mega Drive version offers a nice custom mode, in which you have to hire mechanics, customize your bike, and basically alter all different aspects of the bike's handling. So while this Amiga version doesn't look as good as the Mega Drive or the arcade game, it does control pretty well. Unfortunately, all the European home computer versions do suffer from that stupid control syndrome, where you have to push up to accelerate. I mean, you got a fire button, why not use it for acceleration? Oh well, never mind. But as I said, it does control pretty well and is a very competent game. Unfortunately, this Amiga version has really bad music. I mean, just listen to it, it's awful. Looking pretty much the same as the Amiga version and maybe running a little bit smoother, this Atari ST port is a pretty good game, although the handling doesn't seem to be as sharp as the Amiga version. And the audio, well, less said about that the better. Now while the Sharp X68000 is well known for pretty much arcade perfect ports, it doesn't really fare too well when it comes to Super Hang-On. Now I mean, this is probably the best home port out there, but it's certainly not arcade perfect. Saying that, it does play really well, and it does have decent music. Unfortunately, the handling seems to be a little bit twitchy. Maybe if you can use the mouse it might play a little bit better, but using digital controls, it just doesn't feel right. Still a pretty impressive port. So apart from the laughable music at the very beginning of this game, it does play reasonably well. I mean, for the ZX Spectrum, it's not bad at all. Although I have to wonder why they bothered using a bit of colour on the graphics. They should have just left everything in monochrome like the CPC version. Adding colour certainly doesn't do the game any favours. In fact, it makes it look a little bit more ugly, in my opinion. Again, having the same awful music on the map screen, this game is pretty much identical to the ZX Spectrum version. Although, since this game is pretty much all monochrome, I do think it looks a lot better than the ZX Spectrum version because you have none of those nasty, over vibrant colours. Playability wise, it's not bad. I mean, it handles like the Spectrum version. It's reasonable. Now for some unknown reason, this Commodore 64 version has completely different music. Now while the tunes may be okay, they're absolutely terrible for a Super Hang-On game. In fact, they just do not fit. But that's the least of your worries when it comes to playing this game. The game handles really poorly, has absolutely no sense of speed, and for some reason the bikers seem to be bigger in the distance than what they are when they come closer to you. Still, on the plus side, the animation on the biker is pretty good. Sega Arcade Classics collection for the Game Boy Advance features 4 different Sega arcade classics, including this, Super Hang-On. The game runs pretty smooth, although it's not exactly made in the same way the arcade game is made. This Game Boy Advance version uses sprite scaling for the road and all the objects. It does look a little bit cramped since most of the screen is half the screen is taken up by stats bars, but to be honest, it does play quite well, although the handling can be a little bit fidgety at times. The high point of this game has definitely got to be the soundtrack. Just listen to that, it's amazing. And finally we come to the Microsoft DOS version of Super Hang-On. As with many PC games in the early days, this is pretty pathetic. No in-game music, very bland graphics, but at least it handles reasonably well. For some strange reason, this version was actually released by Data East. Unusual.